What's up, dude? You doing all right?
Yeah, what up, man?
Not
Long
much,
time no
man.
see.
You know what I was thinking about? I was talking about, what was it, last year, year four last, what was it, Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe or whatever come out?
Yeah,
I I was just thinking about because I just watched Beavis and Butthead Do America. Growing up in the 90s, back in that like 92, 93 era when Beavis and Butthead come out on TV and remember the parents were freaking out and shit. What was your thoughts on Beavis and Butthead back in the day on MTV, man? MTV was the shit back then.
well, my mom did not want me to watch it, but my dad caught me watching it. And I remember he sat there and watched it with me for another 10 minutes or so. And he was laughing. And he just looked at me after it was over and just said, "If you watch it, I don't care. Don't tell your mother. If she comes in, just change the channel." And I was like, "All right, I got you, Pops." I was probably like 10 or 11. So I thought I was, too cool for school getting to watch a little bit of that. That was back when MTV had a cool clay animation and all their commercials, too.
Yeah, I remember that very well because, like, I remember watching Beavis and Butthead, and I remember being in the hospital. Like, I had some kind of allergic reaction, man. And I'm sitting in the hospital, and my dad is just sitting over there. I don't know, he's reading a book or something. And basically, like your dad was, the nurse comes in, who I went to school with her son, and she looks at my dad, and she's like, he's not supposed to be watching this. Do you know what this is? Like, she's freaking out. And then as soon as she leaves, don't tell your mom, you
Yeah,
watch it. Exactly. So,
same thing.
but, speaking of the 90s, and man, growing up in the 90s, one of the greatest eras in professional wrestling. Like, I don't know what year you started watching wrestling. I mean, mine was in the 80s, but, the Attitude Era was really kicking up about 97, 98, and that just became the biggest thing, in our childhood.
I was born in 86. So my uncles watched wrestling and my grandmother watched wrestling. And on the weekends, I would go over to my grandma's to stay the weekend. And my uncles were pretty close to age and me, but they watched WCW Saturday morning. So I got to see Sting and Vader and all those like 90s WCW, which a lot of people trash on, but that's what I grew up with. And then when I discovered the WWF, the first pay per view that I can remember was WrestleMania 10, the Razor and Shawn ladder match. I remember because that was pay per view. It wasn't like it is now. Like my parents couldn't afford pay per view. So if somebody had a pay per view and invited you over, you went over, you threw them $5, you brought something to eat, and you were just happy to watch it. But I was specifically remembering that. And the main event of that WrestleMania wasn't even uh, WWF superstar. It was Lawrence Taylor. So I got my
No, no,
introduction
no,
to
that was WrestleMania 11.
was that 11?
Yeah, because 10 was Bret Hart and Yokozuna.
Okay, so I remember the ladder match, and then yeah, I guess I'm confused about that. So
Because Lex
I
Luger
mean,
took on Yokozuna early on in
oh
the.
god, is that when he won the not title and all that?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
see, WrestleMania 11, like, was Shawn and Diesel for the WWF title. And then the main event was Lawrence Taylor and Bam Bam Bigelow.
right. Okay, okay. So yeah,
It was
so
the
that
next
shows you where
year.
my
You're
wrestling
a year
brain
off.
goes. Yeah, but no, my early memories were that '90s. I mean, I remember getting the Coliseum videotapes from the VHS store and
Thing is, that was also like a.
WrestleMania 6. Was that the Ultimate Challenge? WrestleMania
Yes.
6.
Yes.
Okay. Ultimate Challenge, Warrior and Hogan. I was super Warrior at the time because I was about 8. And then whenever I grew up in the Attitude Era and started really watching wrestling and appreciating the wrestling side of it, that's when I realized the Ultimate Warrior was just shit. You know, as a kid,
Yeah.
I wanted to. I mean, he had the body, he had the entrance, he had the music, but I started like appreciating wrestling for what it was after that because I watch a match like that, and then you get into the Nitro Raw is War era, and you see people like Rey Mysterio and Eddie just on there tearing it up. Like that's what I started getting drawn to. The Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars. We used to have this place in my hometown called Damon's, and it was a rib place, and they had 4 big screens, and at the table they had a button 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it would switch the audio of the 4 screens. So on Monday nights, they actually had the Monday Night Wars with basketball and everything else. And I begged my parents, like, please take me up there. And so, like, that'd be like a once every few months thing. But to get to go to like a regular restaurant and watch wrestling was like forbidden at the time. You know, it wasn't as accepted as it is now. Now it's on Netflix.
Oh, shit. It's on
You
everything,
know, it's
man.
crazy. We're in a whole different stratosphere when it comes to wrestling and
Well,
how you can access it. You don't got to go out and get tapes or search for DVDs. You literally just go to YouTube and watch Stan Hansen from Japan, 1974 fan cam, and you're like, holy shit, that was an awesome match.
well, man, it was crazy because like we grew up in what the kids would not know, the tape trade era. And like we would have died for like WWE Network, Netflix, Peacock, whatever you got now, YouTube. We would have died for that when we was kids because we couldn't get enough wrestling. But you really at that time only got it on Monday nights, and man, it was just like you were waiting for the next Monday as soon as the first Monday ended. You brought up, the Ultimate Warrior being shit. All right, here's the thing. It was all cosmetic back in the 80s. You had the bodies, you had the looks. That's what drew you in. And my first pay per view watching, my grandpa watched WCW or NWA on Saturday nights. That's what I grew up on starting with. First pay per view I ever watched, and I think it was an illegal boot, was WrestleMania 4. So, we go back to that and you look at it, but like you talk about how easy wrestling fans have it now. Why don't
That
you?
was that was at Trump Plaza,
Yep.
the first of 2, the only back-to-back WrestleManias. So I might have been off by a year earlier, but I know pretty much the WWE history and the NWA stuff you're talking about. That's what intrigued me. The WWF was cool, and I like grew up with that. But when I saw the NWA, it was more violent. It was like
Wrestling.
more
Wrestling.
raw.
Like it was
Yeah,
real. It made you really
it
believe
was
it.
just like why I remember seeing the Legion of Doom
Road Warriors,
on
yes.
NWA, but I knew them from being the Legion of Doom. So whenever I saw them as the Road Warriors, I was like, who the hell are these guys? Like, what's going on? Because the WWE had kind of calmed them down and mass marketed
Made them
them. But the
cartoonish.
NWA and stuff like that, that's what really got me into wanting to get more into it. Like, I enjoyed that raw, gritty, violent wrestling more than I did the cartoony stuff. I love the cartoony stuff. I grew up with it. I bought it. I had a lunchbox. I had the action figures. I had all of it. But what made me want to wrestle was the other side of it. Like I said, that Saturday morning WCW stuff. Because in my household, there was only one wrestling company, the WWF. That's the only one my parents knew. That was the family friendly
Hulk
one.
Hogan, baby. That's what they
Right.
knew. Yeah.
I remember I got in a cereal box. They used to have those flash books where you take it and
Oh yeah.
spin the pages, and that came in the cereal boxes. And so my parents were all cool with that. And then if I showed them Dusty and Rick bleeding everywhere, beating each other up, talking wild on TV about riding Space Mountain. It was kind of like, I don't know if I want to let you watch wrestling, you know.
Yeah, I mean, well, we grew up in an era where we grew up in the greatest wrestling era of all time. You had NWA when we was growing up, turned into WCW, which it gained momentum. It became something. You had WWF, and then you had the Renegade Company, the real violence of ECW. And that's another thing I wanted to jump into, man. Like, what age was you introduced to ECW? Like, what year on that one?
100%. It was like 96, 97. So
Oh,
Stone Cold's, hitting his stride. Uh, WCW got Hogan, Savage, NWO's running. They're starting to hit their stride. And my dad bought a legal cable box. And so, like I said, I mean, I didn't get to watch any of the premium stuff unless I rented it on home video, 6 months after the
yeah.
event happened.
'Cause hey,
Like
it's not like
I
it
would
is
read
now.
I would read the results in the wrestling magazines. My dad would always take me to the bookstore in the mall, and he would look at video game magazines, and I would grab the wrestling ones and go around the corner and read the results because we didn't have the money to watch it and it wasn't available. But the first time I saw ECW pay per view was when Dad finally got a legal cable box, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and they had a fans bring the weapons match. Now I don't remember what the match was. I just remember there was a Nintendo. Somebody brought a 16-bit Nintendo and they covered it in thumbtacks. And the guy held it up and went over and cracked the guy in the head with a Nintendo. And I remember being like, "Oh my God, he used a Nintendo! Like, what is this?" And I really didn't know shit about ECW until the Beyond the Mat documentary came out. And when the Beyond the Mat documentary came out, then ECW was on my radar. And then I just wanted any kind of content that I could get from them, as far as like the tape trade and stuff. Like I wanted any ECW house show. Like I just wanted to see what they were doing because if you go back and look at it, when the WWE network put everything on there, a lot of that was just indie wrestling. But then there'd be one or two gems in there, and you would see those matches, and that's what got people to buy those tapes. You'd have a Benoit and Guerrero match on some random ass card, or you'd have Shane Douglas and whoever on a random card, and it would just be a banger of a match. And then, I mean, that's what got everybody talking. Like they didn't have the money for the marketing, but if you could just get people to watch it, then people wanted more of it.
Yeah, they really did. Like, you talk about how you was introduced to it. Like, my introduction to ECW is a little bit different. Like, it came on. I think we had Prime Star. Do you remember Prime Star? Like, it was a cable company
No,
way back in the day. It was long gone now, but Prime Star had some kind of like syndication out of Philadelphia, and like 2 o'clock in the morning, you would get ECW on a Saturday night or a Friday night. I can't remember which night it was. And I was introduced to it, and honestly, you when you're a kid, you're like 9, 10 years old. You see something crazy, you get a little scared. Guess who was on the screen the night that I saw ECW for the very first time? They was in a dark alley or a back alley in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It was none other than Johnny Grunge and Rocco Rock. It was the Public Enemy, baby. That was how I was introduced to it, and it was like as early as when they first became a tag team, because they used to fight each other. Yes, they used to fight each other all the time in Japan. Paul Heyman put them together because they were such good opponents. He thought they would make great tag team partners, and that's how I was introduced to ECW. And then I started trying to get like with the tape trading and stuff. I got the night the line was crossed when Sabu, Terry Funk, and Shane Douglas, went the 1 hour time limit, and all like they were in a sleeper hold. It was just like a total. It was great. I remember watching ECW, and there were gems, and then there was some trash, but
Yeah. No, I mean, but with the trash, you were able to sit there and watch it because you knew something cool was going to come up and something different was going to come up. That was the thing. It was not going to be what you saw nationally, and it was going to be something that little part of the country was getting. But normally, it would just be a normal, an indie show that only that 100 to 500 people would get to see. Well, they started really recording it, really getting momentum, and then the whole country was submerged with it. I mean, you can't argue that they changed the whole landscape of everything because without ECW, there was no hardcore
well,
championship. There was no explicit spot. Like they took risk with their storyline stuff before Vince did.
well,
Vince was
yeah.
all
Well,
about
they
the
were the reason
sponsors and
Vince did that.
everything. What?
And I said they were the reason Vince did that.
Oh,
Vince.
100%.
I mean,
And he was illegally funding them, which nobody knew, and would have took away from the prestige of it because he knew he needed to. That was basically his test ground, right? All right, they got away with this. Let me do this.
yep.
And then he still did some stuff that was questionable later on, for
Oh,
sure.
big time questionable. Like you look at it, and we know now, like we're in 2025. We grew up with McMahon. We did. There was a storyline where he wanted to get Stephanie pregnant. It never made it to air, but he wanted to get her pregnant. I'm like, all right,
Yeah, he sat there and wrote that and believed it and tried to convince his damn daughter to do it.
uh,
Craziness.
man,
I mean, he is definitely our Barnum Bailey when it comes to wrestling.
he's got
He did put together the biggest production that could possibly be produced from this, and he had to fuck over a lot of people to do it. But WrestleMania is a 2 night thing now. It's part of TKO. It's a publicly traded company. Here, me and you are talking about something that somebody else created. So, I
yeah.
mean, you can say what you want about him, and he wasn't the best person, but most businessmen aren't.
Well, here's my way of looking at it. Like, man, Vince McMahon was a part of my childhood, whether it was good or bad. We just got to deal with it. I mean, he was a part of it, and that was before we knew anything. But we're talking about somebody that is publicly traded company, and whatnot. Another thing I want to talk about because me and you's had a relationship for what 6, 7 years right now. My thing is this, like I remember 2000. I actually went into contacted and got into wrestling training. What year was it that you got into wrestling training, and who trained you, and how did that all come about?
2001. Um, it actually just was a crazy series of events. I'd always loved
And was it
wrestling.
was it before 9/11 or after?
I don't remember. I'm thinking it was before. Because I graduated high school in 2004. So I went to an indie show, and it just happened to be it was this indie show's big event, their yearly big event, and they rented out a college. Now they had always done small little shows, 100, 150, but this show was at a college. It was in Murray State at Racer Arena, which is about 45 minutes from Paducah, Kentucky, where I'm from. And we went and we got front row tickets. Me, my dad, Ty Blade, uh, as he's known now, we all went to this show. And while we were sitting in the front row, I remember my trainer, one of them, his name is John Caesar. He came out and tag team, and big muscled up dude. He put his arms up and he backed up towards my dad. My dad was like, "Yeah," and put his hands on him, and he leaned back and said, "Don't touch greatness." And he spit towards my dad, and I was like, "That guy's an asshole." But some reason I like that guy. And we went to that show. They had a big TLC match at the end of the night. Um, I was just so enthralled with it that when they were tearing the ring down, I didn't leave. I sat there in my chair and to the point where everybody had left. And of course, all the people that run the show, they want all the fans to leave. And so the promoter, he finally comes over and says, "Hey man, you guys need to leave." And I said, "Look, I want to know like what the ring is made of and how it's set up and how it's tore down. And I just, I'm very intrigued. I want to know." He said, "I can't let you stay here, but here's a flyer." And he gave me a flyer and said, we do training on Fridays. We set the ring up, train all night Friday. Saturday, you get there before the show. We train Saturday night. All the trainees, they work security, they do whatever we need. Sundays, we train, and Sunday night, we tear the ring down. And this is our flyer. And he handed me a flyer, and one of them said like $5,000, training. And then the next one said $2,000. And I was like, I'm 14 years old. And the third one said $20 a weekend if you work for the show. And I was like, hey, I like the $20 plan. That's what I'm talking about. And I convinced my parents to start taking me. And so I was actually trained by Brandon Thunderbolt Walker, and he was trained by the USWA, Harley Race, Jeff Jarrett. And the ring that I actually trained in was owned by the Poffos, Macho Man and Lanny, and then his dad, uh, Angelo, used to run the ICW. And so the ring that I grew up and learned how to wrestle in was actually very stiff. It was from the 50s. And I was 14 years old, and basically I showed up and they just tried to make me quit every week and beat the hell out of me. And I just kept coming back. And after I kept coming back for about a month and a half, 2 months, Brandon, my trainer, came up to me and he said, we got a lot of guys that come in and out of here, and they're grown men. We've had, military veterans. We've had, big bar guys. We've had everything. But your little ass keeps getting back up and coming back, and I like you. And they took a liking to me, and those guys are still my family. Still talk to them. I was broke in at a time where it was still very protected. So they made me appreciate everything. Like you could not walk back in the locker room unless you earned that. And it was very special. It still is to me. And that's what I try to train the guys that I train now. But I'm a little bit easier on them because it's 2025. But in 2001, 20 something years ago, if you were a young guy, they want to just beat your ass and send you packing. But you got to see who's going to be able to actually get in there and do what they need to do. And this is a tough business. It's hard. It's competitive. Everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to be heavyweight champion. Not everybody can be heavyweight champion. Not everybody can be light heavyweight champion. Not everybody can be tag team champion. Some people just need to be the ticket taker. Some people need to be security. Some people need to be referees. Some people need to be managers.
Well, it's
There's
it's
a
all
place for
about knowing
yeah,
your
no, there's
role.
a place for everyone in it. But sometimes people that get into it all want to be Hulk Hogan.
Yep, not gonna happen.
It ain't gonna happen. You know.
I mean, here's the thing: you got to know your role. You got to know what your value is. You got to know what you bring to the table. You know, it's like you said. Everybody wants to be Hulk Hogan. They want to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's just not gonna happen. You know, and to be on the independent scene, you got, and I'm gonna say this maybe out a little bit of bias, but you got you got Vladimir Koloff, you got other guys that have worked their ass off, Delicious Van Vicious, you know, have worked their ass off on the independent scene. Those are the guys. Then you got guys that fill the card, and that's the problem is the egos of some of these people that fill the card. They think they're better than what they really are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you got the big fish in a small pond syndrome.
Yes.
And that's what cuts a lot of guys at the knees, right? You feel like you've plateaued at this level and that, you're better than most of these guys that are coming in. The reality is, even me, 25 years in, going on, I'm at the same level as these guys that are starting out that were me 15, 20 years ago. And so that's the reality of it. You're on the same show. There should be no ego. You might be getting paid a little bit more scratch, but you ain't made it to the big time.
No.
And being on the indies and wrestling 4 and 5 days a week is different.
Oh,
It's just
exactly.
it's different. Everything
Exactly.
about this business is repetition, and you get what you pay for. If you see a guy that wrestles once a year, you're gonna know that he wrestles once a year. You get a guy that wrestles 200 dates a year, you're gonna see him in there just fucking tearing it up. That's just what it is. I mean, it's just like any other sport. If you don't practice, you're no good, and you're only as good as your last match. You can say whatever you want. Everyone always remembers the end of your matches. They remember what the finish was. Do they remember the beginning of it? No, not most of the time. But do they remember your last match? Well, yeah, the people that are paying attention to you, they remember your last match. And if your last match sucked, that's the taste that you leave in people's mouth. And a lot of guys, woulda, coulda, shoulda. I didn't make it here, or I didn't make it there, or I should have done this in my match. Well, you didn't do it. So if your match sucked, then that's what people have to remember you by. Because if you don't make it to your next match, you can't redeem yourself. That's what it is.
Well, that is true. Now let me ask you this, because like I said, me and you both grew up in a different era. We were trained in a different era. Like, you said, you know, how we went through things in 2000 and 2001 would be considered bullying now. But let me ask you this. All right, like the way things is now, and I need to take a little second. I'm gonna take a sip. All right. So, like the era we grew up in and the way we did things is a lot different. Do you think that doing so many spots, and I hate to use those kind of words out here in the open, but like they're so worried about spots. What I'm doing this, what I'm doing that. They're not working the crowd. They're not feeling the crowd. They're not knowing what the crowd's thinking They're worried about what they're going to get in that they think looks cool. What's your thoughts? What's your advice to people that are not worried about entertaining the people that are paying the tickets? They're worried about what their spot looks like.
They're worried about getting themselves over. They're worried about getting their jubblies off. Basically, I can sit here and pre-plan things all day. And what I tell the young guys is, in a match, if we're going to pull the curtain back,
Yeah.
I pick three spots or three moves that I want to get in and accomplish. Other than that, everything else is just filler. It's just to get me to those moments. So if I can execute those three things well, you're going to remember those three big spots, whatever story we're trying to tell. Because, like I said, who remembers the beginning of the match? Who remembers the middle of the match? You remember the finish. You remember the entrance. You remember how you felt when these people did this. If you can suspend disbelief three times in a 10-minute match, that's a huge accomplishment. You got to think that anybody watching wrestling has seen everything at this point. They've seen people go through light tubes. They've seen people get spiked in the back. They've seen bed of nails. They've seen exploding stuff. They've seen Mick Foley get thrown off a cage. They've seen everything that you could possibly see in a wrestling match. But can you suspend their disbelief for three moves? If you can do that, you can have a career in this business. But it takes time to learn that. Listening to the crowd is an art. I know as soon as I go out there and get moving around how they are interacting with me. I know what's going to happen and how to change their mood. But that just took time and learning. And I was taught by the right kind of people. A lot of guys just learn the moves and go through the motions. And you can hit 50 bumps in a match, but out of those 50, how many actually meant something? One,
Exactly.
two,
Maybe but
maybe.
one or two.
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't mean anything, why do it? And I understand wanting to see athletically if you can do this or that, and that's fine. You're going to learn that on the indies. That's what the indies is for. You go find those spots, but you got to figure out in the story where to write that. It's like if you're writing a book, you don't want to put the ending in the middle of the story because nobody's going to read the rest of the book. You want to be the ending to be the ending, but you have to learn how to accentuate those moves to tell that story. What we do really is an art form, and there's going to be people that argue that it's not, but for wrestling fans, this is the ultimate theater. And if you can make them forget about their regular life for a few minutes, then you got something good.
Well, definitely. Like, look at this. Look at it this way. There was two things that got me through childhood. That was pro wrestling because of the storytelling. And if you tell the story right, if you make the people believe, that's one good thing. That is number one. You know what number two in my childhood that got me through was none other than Al Bundy, baby, married with children. I mean, it didn't matter how bad your damn week was. Al Bundy's was worse. You know what I mean? So the thing is like this. People worry about getting their moves in, getting this in. My thing is when you leave that arena at night, I don't want you to know what move I did. I just want you to remember me. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, I don't care. If I entertained you, I did my job. That's all I think about. Now, you said you got into it about 2001. I got in, I started my training probably around 2000, which, didn't complete all the way until about 2018, 19. That's when I completed mine. But after you completed yours, you got on the independent scene. You was what, Matt Winters?
Matt Winters, first match I ever had, I was Torch. It was at a legal show in the state of Kentucky.
Uh,
You have to be
Wait a minute, hold on.
you
Did
have
you
to be
say legal or illegal?
illegal.
That's about right.
Yeah. You got to be 18 to have a wrestling license, and the promoter actually worked at a nursing home and set up an exhibition outside of the nursing home in the parking lot. And so we put a ring out in the parking lot, and they wheeled out these people with dementia and everything else in the nursing home to watch our show. So half the people that were actually watching the show had no idea where they were at. But it was a wrestling show. I went to the flea market. I got me and my tag partner, Ty Blade, airbrush shirts, said third degree burn, because I thought that that was going to be my tag team name forever. We were going to make it all the way to the end. Um, Came up with music. It was POD, whatever it takes,
Oh,
which is just
P.O.
just a whole lot of screaming. And we had the match against John Caesar, my trainer, and he just beat the ever living hell out of us in front of a bunch of vegetables, basically. And Ford died that
Forgive me
day.
for laughing. I'm sorry. A bunch of
Yeah,
vegetables.
no, Torch died that day. And then I had the opportunity to be in a tag match a few weeks later. I got a singlet, and then I started Matt Winters. And then I was Matt Winters sometimes 4 to 5 days a week. Wednesdays, I'd wrestle in Evansville, Indiana. Thursdays would be Random Town, Tennessee. Fridays was usually Nashville. Saturdays was somewhere else. And Sundays was Bowling Green, Kentucky, which also was a show where I wasn't supposed to be wrestling because you're supposed to be 18. But I did not obtain an actual wrestling license until 2004. And that's when I was able to legally start wrestling in all these states.
Well, now, all right. So back when you started and currently, I know you have to have a Kentucky Wrestling Alliance. I mean, wrestling
Wrestling Alliance,
license.
wrestling license.
Yeah. Did you have to have it back then as well? Like back in 2002, 2001 deal?
Yeah, no. It's all through the boxing commission and everything.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Now, the athletic conventions around here, they show up whenever. We don't really see them. But in Kentucky, they were very, very strict about it.
Well, let me ask you one thing. I got one question. Now, Mac Daddy, me and you been up and down the road all day long. I've managed you in many different promotions, right?
Yeah, I got suspended for dropping you on your head when you were referee, but go on.
Yeah. Now I want you to be dead honest with me. Don't screw around. We're gonna break down a wall here. You fucking tell me the truth right here. Did Tommy was that a fucking work with the commission when they came into Pascagoula when DCW was first bought by Tommy and Brent? Don't lie. Speak the truth, baby. Come on out with it. This is Howard Stern, baby. Because you got to give it up. Tommy called the commission, had them come in. Y'all did that shit. Come on, tell me the truth.
You're talking about Night of Extreme? Night of
Yes, I am.
Extreme. The Mississippi Athletic Commission shut us down because we had barbed wire and glass bottles, and I got cut open that night. I mean, my arm was cut open.
And that's when you took on your boy Ty Blade that you've been
Yeah.
talking about already tonight, right?
Uh huh.
So that's where you and Ty, and that's actually the last match y'all had, right? Is that am I correct?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No. The commissioner was there. He was collecting license fees from everybody that was on the card, which is like
Even
one
Tommy
and
Dreamer. What wasn't Tom? Was it Tommy Dreamer or one of the other ECW originals there that night?
Tommy Dreamer was there that day. Al Snow was there that day. He left before my match, but yeah, no, the athletic commission shut us down, and it was a work. Yeah, no, I mean the bottles did like scrape me open, but it was sugar glass bottles. But once you broke that shit up, it was all over the mat, and I was moving around, and then when the blood started coming and everything, the commissioner started wigging out because we had told him kind of what we were going to do, and he said okay to it. But then whenever it actually went down, he started getting mad, freaking out. And I actually haven't seen that dude since then. So,
Well, I'll tell you what. I saw that dude like a week after or 2 weeks after that show.
I mean, he could have just been collecting money. I don't
He
know.
was. He was. It was a fucking money mark. You know, the commission come up, I swear to you, like when we was running the Mississippi Rumble, that son of a bitch only showed up when the Mississippi Rumble was coming around because you had 30 wrestlers on the show. He's like, huh, there's 30 licenses. You can't get them online. Let's go ahead and buy them in person.
Go collect. Yeah. Now, so, I mean, yeah, we worked him. He worked us. Tommy was trying to get some controversy out of One Night Extreme, and he was trying to just do big things on the Gulf Coast. And we see what happened to Tommy. He petered out. I had business with Tommy other than the wrestling business, and it was not handled properly. I'm going to leave it at that to be respectful, but I would never, I wouldn't trust that guy with a ham sandwich.
Oh, shit.
That's where I'm at with it.
Shit. Would you trust him with your woman?
No, but last I heard, he was working at Spirit Halloween. So, I mean, it's what it is.
Yeah, Halloween's over. Is Halloween in Denver?
It is in Tommyland.
Well, all right. Moving on from that. Night of Extreme, me and you first locked up in the original DCW. You know,
Yeah,
before it
Mr.
changed.
Gene. Yeah.
Yeah, Gene Miller, Laura Miller ran it. You know, the first time you was on my podcast was King of Wrestling podcast, and that was back in 2019. And the first show I think I attended was AWA down in Coden, Alabama. And me and you talked at that show. After that, things started kind of snowballing with the podcast. It ended up with me starting to manage, and then the next thing you knew, I think it was destiny. You know, Mac Daddy Duds and the Brilliant One together. But my thing is, like, it was simpler times back then, but at the same time, it just was. I don't know, man. It just nothing was flowing. What was your thoughts like when I first broke in? You know, first become the Brilliant One. and me and you kind of got together. What was that relationship like? What was your thoughts on me and you being together at that point in time? Me being the manager, you being the star.
I knew you wanted to do business, so I was all about it. I mean, you had proved that. You were a referee. Like I said, hit you with my finish. I got suspended. I knew that you were ready to do business. Anybody that's ready to get in the ring and take bumps for a story wants the product to be better. And that's where you were at. You were really wanting to earn your way in. And out of all the people that I talked to at the shows, people come up to you all the time, talk big. You were legit. Like everything you've ever told me, and that was from the time that you were podcasting to being a manager to getting involved in the booking and promoting. You delivered on all those promises. So whenever I needed to come back to the AWA, you were instrumental in that. You made sure that I was taken care of. Always. No matter what was going on, once I came back, you said, "Are you okay with this? Are you good with this?" And that was the respect you gave me back because I gave you the same respect. Anybody that wants to get into this, I've always welcomed them. But if they don't want to do business, then, fuck off. Like, this
For
is a
real.
business. I
And
mean, that's what it is. And some people want to get in and get their shit in and not want to do business with people. And there's no room for that in this. This is a give and take business. Give and take. The only person that didn't have to give and take was fucking Goldberg, right?
yeah,
And they gave him 192 wins or whatever the fuck it was. And he was able to get away with that until he kicked Bret Hart in the head. That's what it is.
and gave him the
But
concussion.
everybody else in the business, you got to eat a little shit and you give it back out. That's just part of it. And that's why in the old days, they would get you in the ring and stretch you. I mean, that's why Hulk Hogan got his fucking leg broken by Hiro Matsuda. They wanted to scare him to get out of the business. Well, it hasn't been as protected over the last 20 years, but the guys like me that were brought up old school, we demand a little bit of respect from the young guys. And some guys are athletic and they want to come in and guns a blazing and get their stuff over, and they don't understand why the older guys don't want to help them get over. You have to have the older guys to pass the torch. It's just the reality of it.
Well, one of the greatest vets to ever want to put the young guys over to make the business better. You can talk about Hulk Hogan because without Hulk Hogan, wrestling would not be what it is today. There's no doubt whether you love him or hate him, whatever. But there's one guy that was not selfish that wanted to do the right thing, and that was Terry Funk. Terry Funk wanted to get the younger generation ready. When me and did business, we did this. And like I said, our relationship, like I'm not gonna say that, you trusted me 100%, I trusted you 100%, whatever. But at the end of the day, we always had that respect for each other. And
I would have never done anything you weren't cool with, and you wouldn't have ever done anything that I wasn't cool with because we had that mutual respect
exactly,
as performers. And I
exactly,
knew, even though you didn't go to wrestling training and take bumps and do all this shit, that you were willing to do some of the stuff that was outside of your comfort zone. And when I saw you outside of your comfort zone, I was like, okay, like I can work with this guy because he's outside of his comfort zone. There's a lot of people that talk just how you talk and want to manage and want to do whatever, and then they don't walk the walk. And
Well,
then they get mad whenever they don't get the spot.
that's because they're entitled. They don't understand you have to work for what you want for. And when you're entitled, oh, I'm owed this, I'm owed that. I don't have to tell nobody I'm the greatest manager because fans tell me. They'll say the Brilliant one's the greatest manager. I don't have to go out there and say it. Just like Mac Daddy does, don't have to go out there and say I'm the greatest wrestler out there because fans say it. We've seen that over the years, and like I said, our relationship has never differed. We've never had a problem with it. We never. I don't think that me and you have ever really had an argument because we had that respect for each other. That's just like when I went and purchased AWA. I'm gonna say I don't give a shit. You can say kayfabe. I purchased AWA. I reached out. Not. I'm not saying this. I reached out to Mac Daddy Duds as a favor. I didn't reach out to him as because he's my buddy or anything. I reached out to him because the fans wanted it. It wasn't, nothing personal. The fans wanted it. I reached out to you and I said, I'm going to get you back in the AWA ring. Now, this is after some things happened in AWA, but
No, I mean straight up. I mean Tommy was dead set in crushing the competition, and I'm not going to disclose the amount, and I've never said this publicly, but Tommy gave me a hefty payday to throw the AWA belt in the trash. He gave me an extra bonus, and it ain't no Christmas bonus or nothing. He gave me a large amount, and I was very upset that night that I handled the whole situation very badly. You know that, which is why we had to get to that point. But I mean, cash is king.
yeah,
Bullshit talks, money walks. Somebody
yeah,
gives you a big old payday to cut a promo, throw a belt in the trash when you're already mad, makes it real easy. And
well,
so I did.
let
I
me
did.
say this
I'm not
before you
going to
go any
elaborate.
further.
I'm not going to elaborate anymore about that. But as soon as I did it and everything, I will say that the next day, my wife was standing over me in my bed and said, "You don't know what you did last night." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" Because I was highly inebriated. OVW was there that night.
Oh,
So
Cash was there,
you
wasn't
want
he?
to
What
talk
was it?
you want to
What
talk about
Cash?
my big opportunity. AJ is one of their talent scouts. He's one of their announcers. I walked up to him and I said, "This ain't OVW. This is DCW." Because I was on the bandwagon. I was, because he was heavily paying me. I mean, straight up. And I remember I told Walter, "Go get me a trash can." And Walter said, "What?" I said, "Go get me a fucking trash can, Walter, or I'll slap the shit out of you." And he goes, "Okay." And so he brought me a trash can. I went out there and did the deed. And the next day, I had to wake up with the consequences of that. So I had to learn that I couldn't just get mad and go out with a live mic. I'm not Scott Steiner, you know. Like, you get mad, you need to kind of sit on it for a couple days before you just go out there and do what you do. But at that time, I felt that I wasn't appreciated as a talent. I felt like I had went to the end of my ropes with AWA. It was the same old shit over and over and over. And that's why whenever you brought me back, I got involved. If it wouldn't have been for you, I would have never went back. I went back for that year, and I thought I had a great run there on my
Dang.
way back, and then
It was the
it
moment of
just
the
died
year.
again. Just died out of nowhere. So it was very disappointing.
Well, it died after I left, hopefully, right? But
Yeah, I mean, basically,
well, here's my
straight
thing.
up. When you were gone, it was like, yeah. They tried to run against Cruising with the Coast, and you know how that goes. I
Well,
mean, we looked
well,
out of the curtain right before the show started. There was 25 people there. I mean, why would you try to run against Cruising with the Coast unless you were at Cruising with the Coast? You would have called people and got us down at Cruising with the Coast, and we could have blown it up. But once you dipped, man, there went my faith in the whole thing again.
well,
So I had a very rocky relationship with that whole situation.
well, and I do too. And I'm just gonna say this, and I think you know this. Like, no matter what the situation was, mine and your relationship has always stayed the same.
Oh yeah.
No matter, when you drop, the tile in the trash can, whatever. Me and you talk the next day. We talk
Oh.
days. Now, let me ask you this. I want to ask you one question. Because what pissed me off the most about the AWA situation was how they messaged all the wrestlers, all the talent after. Because me and you talked the day I left. We talked, right? They messaged all the talent and told them, well, Brandon was going into bankruptcy. That's the reason we went bankrupt. You had a company for 5 months and you couldn't make it run, and you're going to blame me, who had to leave for personal reasons?
Yeah. No, I mean the whole situation was crazy. We were literally supposed to have a show on that Saturday, and that Tuesday or Wednesday, we're all informed that it was just shut down. I was like, what? What do you mean? Now, for a lot of guys, that meant 2 shows a month that they were consistently booked at.
It's gone.
That was gone. Gone. Like never again. There was a lot of guys that was their only show. That was the only place that they were able to wrestle within their distance. And so it just was kind of out of nowhere. And
Well,
I
it
mean,
wasn't. It wasn't even told. But do you want me to tell you how everybody found out that it was sold, or do you know?
I mean, I got it. I I don't know because I know what the information that I got. So what do you got?
Well, I was told that somebody was buying the company the week of
Yeah,
by the person that bought the company, which, I mean, you'll be working with him this weekend,
yeah,
Mr.
no,
McCarty.
Chris, yeah,
And I, I mean, I
yeah,
told
no,
him,
I found out from Chris as well.
yeah, well, see,
He told me like it wasn't them that told me. I mean, from see, this
well,
is one of them things where I don't know what I should say or what I shouldn't say. All
I'm gonna
I
just,
know is
I'll
I'm just
say
gonna.
it. I'm the
I
reason that
mean,
everybody in AWA found out, other
well,
maybe than a couple other people, but I was for the main reason, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I was the reason that the booker found out.
yeah, no, I mean, when he didn't know, and then he told me that he hadn't been paid for up to 6 months while he was booking and all. Okay,
Years,
yeah,
years,
yeah,
years.
okay, okay. So yeah, when you factor all that in, well, yeah, no wonder nobody wanted to do shit for you.
Well, here's the thing. All right, here's my thing. It didn't happen once. It happened twice. Okay? When I bought the company, that booker was not notified that I even bought the company. He was notified by me that I bought the company. Okay? And then a week before they close, he's booking shows. You know how he is. We both know him very well. He books shows in advance. He does things in advance. The first person I told when I was leaving that company was him. I said, look, I got a personal reason. My mom's sick and I hate doing this. Because you know me, I do not just put my personal business out there whatsoever. I don't
100%.
I don't tell anything about my personal business, but I do feel like this needs to be addressed because I'm gonna say this. I'm actually gonna go on a little Mac Daddy Duds AWA dropping the belt trash can here.
Uh-oh. Let's
That's
hear it.
right. That's right. I'm gonna go on it right here because it pissed me off that I was blamed for AWA going bankrupt when I had nothing to do with it for 5 months. Okay,
Yeah, you were the only one that fucking injected any kind of life into it.
I
You
tried.
already know. God wasn't doing nothing but spending Monopoly money.
I don't
You
even know if
brought
they're
in
spending Monopoly
Hammerstone.
money. I don't even know if you can spell Monopoly money.
Yeah,
I
you were bringing in all these guys. Angel Camacho blowing up the toilet. Yeah, you did have a hand in that, but you were bringing in all this talent to make a better show, and it was working. Like it was working. That was the problem. It was working, and then all of a sudden it was like, eh.
well, I gave them the formula. Here it is. My mom got sick. Legit. Not, you know, I'm not trying to get sympathy off anybody. She's doing great now. Not that she, you know, the condition that she has, anything could change at any moment. She's
Right.
doing great at the moment. We're glad we got to spend what time we have with her. But my thing is that, I did everything I could do to build AWAL. When I got blamed for it, that didn't just piss me off because I did message him and tell him that. But then his wife goes around telling people that I'm the reason that this company is bankrupt. And she's telling my wife, who you know very well, and she's telling my wife, "Oh, I love you so much. I do this, I do that." But yet you're telling all the fans that, it's my fault and you love my wife? And my wife has got the books, and if anybody ever wants proof, I've got receipts, I've got screenshots. I never lost a dime running this show at AWA. They may have,
Yeah.
because when I looked at the shows that they were running after the ones that, we had booked, no wonder they were losing money. Because I'm not going to say the fan's name. Let me get this right. I'm not going to say the fan's name, but I know Cotton will know who the fan is when I say this. But a fan, after I left, messaged him, and he showed me the screenshots of this. Messaged him and said, "Man, the talent's really dropped at AWA since Brandon's left." He's like, quote Cotton's words, said, "I've been doing this for, I want to say, 17 years. I know what I'm doing." Well, apparently you fucking don't, because
Yeah.
you're out of business.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you already know where I'm at with it.
I mean, here's my thing, and I'm sorry I'm doing the Mac Daddy Duds on the Mac Daddy Duds, but my thing is this: me and the booker came to you. We talked about what a great return that would be, and we dubbed that the return of 2023. That was the greatest return of 2023 in independent wrestling. When you came in at the end of the show that night after Chris Patch beat Hammerstone, you know, you came out. It was so real. We're gonna break
In the
down the fourth.
wheelchair. Yeah.
We're gonna break down the fourth wall. I'm gonna go ahead and say this, and I'll let you comment. My wife was the only one that knew outside of me and two other people that knew you were coming there that night. There were people coming up to her saying, "This old man in this wheelchair, he's suspicious. There's something up with him." They thought you was a
Yeah.
damn terrorist. You know, they were like legitimately looking out for you. And I remember you came in the locker room that night, and Brian looks at me, Uncle Fester looks at me, and he says, "What's Mac Daddy doing here?" I said, "He's closing the show." And he said, "Fuck you, get out of here, right?" And then you
Yeah.
close the show, and then he comes to me and he goes, "Nobody told me about that." I said,
Yeah.
"You didn't need to know." But the thing about it was that was just one of the greatest returns, and it got over. But I want you, from your perspective, to tell the fans and the listeners on the podcast, what was you thinking when you was trying to get out of the building that night and a certain someone stopped you, and he knew that you was supposed to be there, but he tried to stop you anyway by force.
Uh,
You know who
yeah.
I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Um, this was one of those, the communication wasn't there for everybody. So you knew, and a couple other people knew. I literally bought a wheelchair and wheeled myself in, and your wife didn't recognize me at first, but she did at a certain point, and I just told her, just shut up, just don't say anything, just it'll be fine. And I literally sat in the crowd in a wheelchair waiting for my moment. And when my moment came, I got up, went over the crowd, went in, did the whole deal, and then he chased me back to the locker room, and I didn't think anything of it. I really did not. Van Vicious got me fired up about that.
Love
He was like,
Van, baby. I
he,
love
he,
Van.
he ruined your moment, brother. He ruined your moment. And I was like,
That's my brother.
what? I didn't even notice. But that's just Van Vicious just stirring shit up.
I
So
I love
me and
Van.
Brandon, we're cool after that. We worked on a couple other shows. After that, no problem. But that night, I really did feel like he tried to ruin my moment, and he
Well,
got me
well,
mad.
well. The thing is, this is my thing, and the ruin the moment part, yes, because like he knew. I mean, not that he personally knew, like we said something, but he knew that that was legit. That he shouldn't have done that, but that's what happened.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%.
I
And
mean, yeah, that's just it.
whatever.
Well, let me ask you this now. Like we're digging into a couple other things, and I'm gonna give you the option in a minute to ask me two questions. But first, I want to start with a little segment because we're gonna have to start wrapping up here in a minute. I mean,
Oh yeah,
we've been going over an hour. Me and you could
oh yeah,
talk for probably 10 hours. But
100%. Yeah, no, we gotta start wrapping this up real quick.
all right, let's start wrapping up with this. I'm gonna name three people. I want you to give me your honest opinion on them
Uh-huh.
and give me a good quality about them. Let's start with Walter the Worm Alexander.
All right. Good quality, great teeth, uh, great dental hygiene, awesome ring gear. The
Wait, wait,
most devastating DDT you will see in the Gulf Coast.
wait a minute.
Next, next. No, no, you can't ask any follow-up questions. Like that's it. Next.
Next, let's go with delicious and vicious.
Haven't heard anything from him. He actually came over to my house about a month ago when I wasn't home, knocked on my door looking for me, and the phone number that I have for him, I don't still have the same phone number, so I'm not sure what Delicious Van Vicious is up to these days. He ain't on Memphis TV. I'm not sure.
Well, I love delicious Van Vicious, but and I got to get up with him. But all right, the last one. I mean, let me see if I can. I want to figure this out just a little bit. I don't know if their name is Brent or Cynthia, but tell me what you think of the promoter Brent Cynthia.
What now?
Oh, I'm sorry. Shit, I got the last name wrong. It's Brent Ladner. I'm sorry, Mr. Ladner.
Oh, Mr. Ladner is running DCW. I mean, we have a weekly TV show, Synergy, that's on twice a month, Fridays on Channel 5, Channel 15
Oh, no.
here in Mobile. And we also do a every quarter pay-per-view. So we just did Mardi Gras Madness. The next pay-per-view will be Pay the Piper. Um, Brent has done nothing but take care of me. Like I am one of his assistant trainers. He's put me on TV. He's promoted me. Brent has been one of the realest people that I have met in the business, and he's not from the business. He has HVAC and plumbing business, HVAC, AC, plumbing, and he is the sole owner of DCW now. Now, a lot of people aren't agreeing with what DCW is doing, but DCW has Scott Armstrong, who was a producer for NXT and WWE programming, head referee, and now he's the head trainer for guys on the Gulf Coast to learn how to do TV. So when it comes to DCW, Brent, Scott, I've got nothing but great things to say because I'm an employee at the company right now and I'm trying to further my wrestling knowledge. And no one else, not Cotton, not Gene, not Tommy, not Shannon, not any of these other promoters around here have given me an avenue to be successful. And Brent and Scott have done that. So I will have to attest to that.
All right. Before we do get out of here, I do have one more. Hey, you got a little something right there on your lip. Yeah, Shannon Henderson. Let's hear
Good.
this, cause hold on. Before we get to Shannon, I want to hear. I heard a story. A little
Hold on.
birdie told me.
Hold on. I gotta take a piss.
All right, you go take a piss.
Yeah, you got to give me a second.
All right, he's gonna take a piss, and hell, I may too. Let me go take a piss as well. Check out sponsoring packages at kellybuckx@gmail.com. Email us and we'll give you all the info. What's the info? Info on package prices right here on Around the Indies.
Ah,
Oh, I'm
yeah, you
back,
got
man.
to
Look, I gotta say
edit a
this.
little bit of that shit out.
Let me just say this. We did the Tom Hanks in what was the movie? League of Their Own piss. Remember the piss he did in League of Their Own?
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Oh yeah.
All right. All right. Before we close this out, because we're going to close it out real quick. Shannon Henderson, I heard a little birdie tell me you told Shannon Henderson off, and I just want to know if it's true or not.
Me?
Yes, you.
Oh no. I'm supposed to be working his next show. I mean, he got mad at me over something stupid, but I was supposed to work Brimstone at his last show with some UFC guy managing us, which made absolutely no sense. And so Shannon, this whole time, he hasn't want to put me over for a belt, right? He's put me over on his shows a bunch of times, but not for a belt. And that's fine. Like, I don't need the AWF belt to make me whole. And me and him got into a little altercation a couple weeks ago, but it was nothing. And he said to me, he was like, "What, are you mad at me because I wasn't going to put you over at my next show?" I was like, "What? What are you talking about? I don't give a fuck, dude. As long as you pay me, I don't care.
Right, the money, baby. Money.
Yeah, I don't care. Like, you want me to wrestle Brimstone for the 157th time? No problem." So, no. But I mean, still supposed to work for him in a couple weeks. We'll see what happens.
Exactly. Well, Mike Daddy, baby, I love you coming on. Me and you always had that relationship where didn't matter what happened in independent wrestling, we always found a way to talk. And honestly, people think of me about as big a piece of shit as a planet Earth, but that's just what comes with it. But at the end of the day, I do want to thank you because there's only a couple of people, and I'm pretty sure you know who those three people are, that has contacted me since I had to step away from wrestling. You being one of them, and a couple other people that we've talked about, especially the booker for AWA, and a delicious one at that. Those, I mean, those are the three people that I've kept in contact with, no matter what. And like me and my wife was talking about the other night, she goes, you know, there's really only three people that from day one that I've stepped foot, the first show that I stepped foot in Mississippi in independent wrestling, and you're one of them. The booker for AWA is another one, and delicious one is another one. Those are
I
the three.
appreciate that. I really do. Like, now I'm able to pass on my gift of this business to other people. So, me being the assistant trainer at the Diamond Mine,
I was gonna say,
really,
tell us
it's
what
a
you're
big,
doing now.
yeah, no, that's a big thing for me. So, I'm training and still traveling, still wrestling. Wherever the money's right is where Mac Daddy does is going to go. I definitely have a new look and have a new outlook on things, but that never is going to stop ever. Every time that I've changed my look, somebody's told me it wasn't going to work. You went blonde. You are wearing jeans with zippers on them. You're wearing chains to the ring. You're bringing money to the ring. Everything that I've ever done, somebody told me it wasn't going to work. So I dye my hair black. They tell me it ain't going to work. Watch me. I'm going to make it work.
And you
Here
know
we are
what?
now. Like I
What?
said, I'm training people. I'm in my next level of things. I'm going to get some of these guys to understand how the business works enough to where they're going to get somewhere. And I'm going to be able to be that teacher that says, I showed them that. I did that. But no matter what, I'm going to be real no matter what it is. And that's how I've always been with you. That's how I've always been with anybody around here. Whenever I wanted to break into the Gulf Coast wrestling scene, I wanted everybody to know that I was here to make an impression. And if you liked it, you liked it. If you didn't, you didn't. Now, Walter's Magnolia Championship Wrestling, they've got AIWF bringing in Mustang and Chris Black in the main event for the AIWF Heavyweight Championship. They also are bringing in the AIWF Gulf Coast Championship. And there's a lot of guys here on the Gulf Coast that if they got that belt put on them, they could get some national attention. And it ain't all about me. Like, I hope that someone on the Gulf Coast gets national recognition. I've been telling you that from day one. Like, there just needs to be someone watching this area. There is talent here, and someone will finally see it and start booking some of these guys. So that is like my hope for the future. It really is.
Well, my main thing is this, and I will just say this: your boy Lash LaFleur, your tag team partner, or y'all are still tag team partners, right?
Uh huh.
Lash LaFleur, man, that's a top tier talent coming. Uh,
Oh, dude, Lash is all over it.
I love
I mean,
watching Lash.
he couldn't pull out of a driveway, but that's different business. Like, Lash, 100% is a beast when it comes to in ring. In ring, Lash has got super talent. He's got the body, he's got the ability, he's got the speed, he's got the strength.
And he's got the children.
That's why I said he can't pull out of a driveway.
Exactly.
Oh, his buddy Travis Mason, he needs to watch Teen Wolf a couple more times because the lone wolf gimmick died with Baron Corbin. So back to the drawing board. But there are a lot of guys in this area and guys you haven't even seen yet because you have been out of it. Like, I'm in the training facility.
Months.
I'm watching these guys grow, and there's some guys that are coming up that if they keep on and they have the opportunity, man, sky's the limit. And that's what I want for the Gulf Coast scene. Like, my ultimate goal from talking to you from the first time was somebody needs to get signed, right?
Yep.
We just need somebody to finally make it. Or that's what the Gulf Coast needs. We need
Well,
a
let me
little.
before we close out because we got like 2 minutes. I want you to name three guys from your DC training or DCW training right now that you got your eyes on. Three. I know it's probably hard, but we just need three.
Right now, if I had to pick three guys on the Gulf Coast that had potential, Jack Passion, The Crusher, and Andy V10 Henson, which I'm not including Lash of Flair. Flash of Flair gets to give me because he's in with me. But singles wrestlers. I mean, Lash has got it. He don't need me. He doesn't
I
need to
mean,
be.
no, that's what I'm saying.
He
I'm talking about
no
younger
Lash.
guys.
Lash don't need to be in a tag team at all. Me and him just clicked, and he got what I was putting down. And they asked anybody if they want to be in a tag team. Now there's a lot of hot prospects behind that, but if I had to pick three, you heard it. Three singles wrestlers. Jack Passion, the Crusher, Andy V10 Hansen. That's it.
All right. Well, before we get out of here, I know you talked about MCW. They got a show coming up tomorrow night. Uh, but go ahead and just spew out everything that you got because it is Friday morning. So tonight is what DCW. So go ahead
Yeah.
and
So
get everything.
tonight,
Hey, throw your social media out there. Let everybody follow you. Have the floor.
yeah, Diamond Championship Wrestling. Go to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Also, Mac Daddy Duds, YouTube. That's MacDaddyDuds. Mac Daddy Duds. I have a match with none other than, let's see, Friday Night Synergy, a tag match. We're setting up for the pay per view, so it's me and Lash and Flair, the realest players, versus the Solution versus the Congregation. Triple man tag team action. Uh, we've all three been the DCW tag team champions. Got to figure that whole deal out. And then Saturday night, MCW got Mac Daddy Duds versus no one. Number one contender here. I beat Tony Donato last month, and I don't know when I'm going to get my title shot. I am the number one contender for the MCW Heavyweight Championship.
Now Tony Donato, that's a future too. He's got
Oh,
some
the
potential.
freight train. Oh, yeah.
So we got to give him a little bit of credit, but I want to thank you for joining around the Indies, the Indy Limelight right here with Mac Daddy Duds, baby.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we'll do one more thing. We'll close out. How was your Brilliant Ink era? You know, you being a part of Brilliant Ink, me and you being a part of each other for, I mean, a couple of years, and then kind of reuniting. We had a little storyline that was going that didn't kind of play out, but you know, mine and your relationship has always kind of stayed the same. I want to give you that closing thoughts, and then we're going to get out of here throwing around the Indies.
Me and you have always been on the up and down. You saw talent and you know talent, which is why you had this podcast. And so I was on there before. I'm on here now. Me and you have shared many beers together, and we shared many tears together as well. We've been through different companies, different owners, the whole 9 yards. But what's consistent? Mac Daddy Duds, Brandon Turner, Brilliant Ink. I mean, we're not going to say that there never will be a reunion, but I won't put it out of the spectrum. So we'll just say that maybe one day we can coexist, but as always, mad respect for you, brother.
Same here, brother, and thank you for joining us right here on Around the Indies. We'll see you next week. We got Monty Warbucks coming up, so y'all take it easy, and we'll see you. Have fun.